Hello everyone. If you start to invest, what should you do in the first place? What's the core of any successful investing strategy, investing plan, or whatever you want to call it? Well, I'll give you an answer. That is correct investing plan, because if you don't have that, you're basically making a gamble in form of investing, and that's basically because before anything you have to know and you have to understand what are you doing here and why you are doing here. What's the purpose of your investing ventures? Do you want to make a fortune? Do you want to make something for a rainy day? Are you planning your retirement and whatnot? Excuse me, I think my dog is walking around and I hope he's not seriously interfering with our nice video, but still, if you hear some weird noises, don't be afraid, that's my dog, who is not particularly interested in investing, but still, let's not let him ruin this discussion, but let's continue my thread. And that's the thing, before anything you have to understand that, firstly, what's your financial position? What do you want to achieve in markets? What are your specific goals? And only then, based on that, you could make some realistic plan. Because if you are someone who is inherited trust fund worth 100 million, you will be rather in different position than someone who is working at school as a teacher or policeman or fireman and making modest salary and try to save some additional euro or his local currency for retirement or his child education. That's completely different story, but still both of them have to invest, because even if you are holding money into deposits, you still are investing. And it brings me to my next step. And once you acknowledge what your position are, who you are, and what you exactly want to achieve, is how much money do you have and where you actually are realistically able to invest. Because as I told you previously, if you are someone who is wealthy, you have almost infinite amount of varieties where you can invest. You could invest in hedge funds, you could invest in real businesses, in venture capital funds, in private equity funds. You could have your own custom broker. There is also endless opportunities of ETFs, index funds, and God knows what. And of course something like crypto also is possibility, but you shouldn't seriously consider that as means of investing. That's trading, and if you want to see how to trade, this is different thread in my channel. So enough of that. And to continue my previous thought, that's one side of the spectrum. Another side of the spectrum is that proverbial teacher or policeman who has modest salary, but he still wants to improve his financial situation and wants to save his money. And even if it's possible for him to invest in bank deposit or some financial product which is only provided him by his local broker, that's still investing. And then that still leaves him with some possibilities, because he has a possibility to don't save anything and spend its money, or he has a possibility to save some of his salary or his income and deposit it, or he could invest it in pension funds, which are different than the pension scheme that's provided by his government. He could invest in health insurance or life insurance, or he could try to buy some real estate as a means for investment. I'm not sure that that's the best way for someone to invest, by buying actual real estate. That's more like a new business venture. But still, here you see that I just made example of modest people with modest income, but still in practice he has possibility to do nothing, to do something very little, such as deposit his money. Or if he tries to invest, he can look at life insurance opportunities or fixed income fund opportunities or any other opportunities. So thing is that possibilities are there, and I could assure you by fact, after 10 or 20 years, he will see the difference between modest savings of just $100 per month for 10 years, which are invested correctly in index funds, which will rise, for instance, at average and 10% a year, or if he wouldn't save a thing and actually wasted his earnings on like gambling or payday loans, whose interest would eat all of his possible savings and anything. So in the one scenario when he actually saved modest sum and grew it for 10% growth rate, and that sum will change to something at some point, you know, if he's relatively young. And another scenario when he didn't save anything, he might as well ruin himself, and at age of his pension he actually put himself in a position where he has no savings and ruined credit history, and he actually spends most of his savings and income to pay out his short-term payday loan debts or something like that. And we cannot only talk about some modest, not fortune, but modest savings and comforts of life, but in that situation he even won't have any money for his expenditure for health, which any of us would need to have in older days. So rather primitive example, but see what are the long-term consequences for that. So that's the thing, that's the importance of investing plan. Of course, if you're very rich, we could talk endlessly about each of those topics because you have lots of means to invest. So, and that's the thing, understand who you are, understand exactly what you want to achieve, and try to find realistic means out of your situation what you could achieve into that. So one trivial example, you are male, you are in your 40s, you have steady income, you are able to save a couple of hundred of euros per month, and out of that you could realistically assess how much money would that look if you would save each month without taking that out, and if you invest part into that into health insurance and life insurance, another part in that to index funds, which will be basis for your pension. And you will see how much that will look after 10 or 20 years. And think about that probability and that expected return on your investment if you didn't save anything and spend that money foolishly. Because at that age, when you will stop to work, your expenditure for health and things like that will skyrocket. That's the unfortunate reality of all of us. So very simple example. And then when you have that plan, then you could start to look more deeper to actual cool things, such as whether you would invest in index funds, whether you will try to track prices of gold, whether you would look for some individual stocks, buy real estate, invest in crowdfunding, or how would you allocate that portfolio between those securities. That comes later. That comes only after, when you know what you should do and how you should do that. That's the good part. That's the same. I could also give parallels in real business, because before you want to make money in business, you have to have detailed financial plan, which you could show to your partners, potential partners, to your investors and your creditors, because they wouldn't even look at you once you don't have very good business plan with realistic profit assumptions to what you could realistically make. And for instance, if you go to something which is really far from investing world, for instance, training, not here, it's training, not trading. So you will still have to have trading plan to meet your objectives, whether it will be weight loss or muscle gain, or to prepare for some athletic sport such as, I don't know, MMA or wrestling or 100-meter dash. You will still have to have trading plan, and then you will have to have nutrition plan, regime, and actual trainings to do that. And this is the same thing here, you know. You have plan, you have realistic targets, and then financial markets will be only means to achieve those plans. And once you start to do that, to think like that, you will see that financial markets are far more predictable and far more consistent with your... That was dog. Excuse me, that was dog. That financial... Excuse me, I'll continue my thought. That financial markets will be far more consistent, far more predictable, and far more realistic way how to make money. But to do that, you have to have a plan. And with that said, wait for my next video. I will show you how to make that plan and how to execute it well. Stay tuned. Bye.